Hey guys, I'm making this video to go with this assignment because this one may take a bit of explaining. On Wednesday, we all went onto the library resources and we found sources to go with our paper. You should have at least 4 by now. If you couldn't find any on there, then I had you, let's move this a little. I had you guys go and find sources on Google. But at this point, you should have at least 4 sources, maybe more than that. And what I'm asking you to do over the weekend is put together an outline for your argument paper and write your introduction. During the actual week, we'll go about drafting out the body paragraphs and maybe the conclusion, putting together our works cited page and stuff like that. So the first thing you're going to have to do before you even get started doing this is read over all of the sources that you've found and highlight important information. Highlight things you think you could use to support your own argument. So for mine, the sample that I have here is from a paper that I wrote one time for a class about how food trucks are better startups than actual restaurants are. And so I had a few different sources from that. Maybe you'll see some of those later in the class. And from those, I went through and I found the best arguments that those people made, arguing for food trucks being better startups. And so I want to make sure that I'm using points in my paper that are supported by the sources that I have. That way I'll be able to draw from them when I want to support those arguments. If I'm making an argument that's not in any of those sources at all, then I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you go through all of those papers, find all of the arguments you can, highlight them or mark where they are somehow, write them down in a big list, and then find the ones that you think you have the most support for, and those will be the arguments in your paper. They might not even be the best arguments, but they for the purposes of this paper, you need to make sure the arguments you have are just ones that you can support with the text that you already have. If you don't do that, what you're going to end up doing is you will write out your outline, you'll end up writing out a big chunk of your paper, and then you'll have to go back and throw all of that away and start over. So make sure that you go through those articles first and find good arguments they're making to put into your paper. The next thing that you're going to do is create an outline like this. So at the top here I have of mine here. At the top I have my main idea, which will just be my title whenever I actually write this. I just put the word intro for now. We'll work on that here in a second. And my thesis. And then I listed my counter arguments first and then my arguments. You can do it the other way around. You can do it whichever way you want. And I also have 2 counter arguments. You don't need 2 of them. You only need like 1. But yeah, so I start off with my counter arguments. These are reasons that other people would say regular restaurants are better, and so I had restaurants are a known business model, where food trucks are kind of new, and then restaurants have better storage and are easier to run, whereas food trucks don't have very good storage. So the first thing I would do if I was actually writing out this paper was, in these paragraphs, I would write out what their argument was, show some support that they had, and then I would write out how it's wrong, and I would show my own support for that. Same one with this one down here. But right now, I'm just writing where these would go in my paper, so I don't need to worry about that yet. Down here, I have all of my arguments. My 3 main arguments that I'm going to make. Food trucks have less initial cost than overhead. Food trucks can relocate. Also that they're cleaner. Just some basic 2 or 3 words. I don't need full sentences for any of this yet. And then I'll have, I just wrote the word conclusion, so whatever conclusions I come to while I'm writing this paper will end up going there. So the first thing to do is write an outline like that. Once you have your outline, you can figure out what your thesis statement is going to be. Because all the stuff in your thesis statement is located at this point right now. It's located somewhere in here. So my thesis statement is basically just going to be what I'm arguing, which is this part, and my main points, which is these three parts right here. So, yeah, write a thesis statement including all of your main points. So I said, because of low cost, modern health concerns, and the ability to change location, food trucks are a better startup than brick-and-mortar restaurants. Don't overthink your thesis statement. Your thesis is really important, and it's going to be the central idea of your whole paper, so you want to make sure that it's good, but it doesn't need to be complicated. Your thesis statement should just be what you're arguing and why. It can be whatever order you want this stuff in is fine, but make sure that you're just saying my argument, your argument, and then because, and then your main points. That's all it really needs to be. And then finally, down here, I'm going to write an introductory paragraph. So, for this part, what I'm looking at here is I'm trying to start off with what common people out in the world are familiar with. So these could be people that are interested in starting a small business. They could be people that don't really care. And then I'm going to draw them into the topic more and show some of the main issues on both sides, and introduce them some to the discussions that I'm going to be having, and then finally I'll end it with my thesis statement. So I'll go ahead and read through this right here, and I'll show you which parts I'm at while I'm at those parts. First, I want to draw my audience in from what they're already familiar with. Whatever they're familiar with within my topic anyway. So, entrepreneurs have long sought the American dream of owning a small business, and for most of them, this took the form of a family restaurant. So people are familiar with starting businesses, and they're familiar with family restaurants. Typical family restaurants require owners to rent a building, buy thousands of dollars of equipment, hire a staff, and take losses for years before turning a profit. So at this point, I'm already talking about the issues that I'm going to cover in this paper. The success or failure of these restaurants rely on the owner's management ability and the quality of the food, as well as factors beyond anyone's control, like the economy and location. There shouldn't be a comma there. As a result, most of these businesses close after 5 years, leaving the owners with a pile of debt. So that's showing a bunch of the stuff that's wrong with brick-and-mortar restaurants. However, I say, the modern innovation of the food truck has allowed entrepreneurs to avoid some of the risks. And then I go straight into my topics, my thesis statement here. Because of low cost, modern health concerns, and the ability to change location, food trucks are a better startup than brick-and-mortar restaurants. So I could have explained more what's good about food trucks before I actually put that in, but there's no reason to. Alright, so this may take you a while. It's going to take some time to read over all of those articles. It's going to take some thinking to put this paragraph together, probably. The reading part should be the part that takes the longest, really, because once you've done that, you should have most of this figured out already. But I am going to give you until Sunday at midnight to finish it. Don't wait until the last minute, because, like I said, this will probably take a little while. Yeah, turn this in by Sunday at midnight. On Monday, we will use these to write body paragraphs for this paper. If you have any questions or are confused by any of this, just shoot me an email at djameson@kilgore.edu, and I'll try to help you out as best I can. Alright, good luck, guys. See you on Monday.